Hello. I'm at I am not at home now. I'm uh just well, it's a couple of weeks before my university year. Um I have a new PC. I built a PC. Wow, I did something worthwhile with my time for once. Woo. Um I'm gonna warm up before I go into the Great Ace Attorney 2 by having a bit of time doing the escapades. And the reason, well, one reason being so let me launch the game and check that the stream is healthy, which it looks to be. I look a mess. I cannot wait to get rid of this fucking terrible beard. It's like the sort of thing you'd see on a Victorian bloody politician. Okay. Yeah, so the escapades, bonus content. Now, there's 8 of them, right? And if we look, this is kind of like Chapter 1 DGS 1-ish. This is in the ship. Just arrived in Britain. Just arrived in James' suite. Right, like, it lines up with the first game, right? So I feel like it's more appropriate to do them in between than after both. So I don't know how long these are. I honestly have no idea. It might be that like each one is actually... In the first of 8 escapades, Ryunosuke finds 2 troublemaking witnesses from his earlier trial having a battle of words in the defendant's antechamber. Okay, they all say the first game. Looking good in 1440p this game. Oh wow, these are going to be some voices that... I'm kind of hoping these are short, actually, but who knows.
Just look at my priceless treasure now. Myself, I have scrubbed and scrubbed. The repellent odor of meat will never be repelled from its resplendent surface again.
But you have it back in your possession, at least. You should be grateful, old man.
How dare you?
Excuse me, but I'd just like to get at that Zabuton cushion there if I could.
Oh. Rest assured, you miserable military malefactor, this is not over. Incarceration awaits for all those who would defraud a senior citizen for his priceless treasures.
Watch your tongue, old man. Mark my words, I won't... Sorry, Sergeant, but I just get at that Zabuton cushion there as well. Oh. I won't go to jail. Never. Imagine if I did. The very next day, my boy would starve without the chain of command in place to provide for him.
Using the child to protect yourself? Myself, I call that abscondent cowardice.
Oh, really? And just to employ the old poor defenseless senior citizen tactic, The only way to fight an enemy who's using underhanded tactics is with a tit-for-tat strategy. Sorry to interrupt the game, but I just need to get at that Western-style cushion there on the sofa. Enough of this insubordination. What do you want, man? Oh, please, don't mind me.
Aha! Do my eyes deceive me, or is this wide-eyed criminal from the trial before?
Wide-eyed, perhaps, but criminal, no.
What is this unhealthy fascination you exhibit with the seating arrangements of others? Why were you peering under the cushion of this upholstered seat?
Oh, I was searching for Joan. Oh, well, the thing is... Any luck? Did you find it? No, sadly not. I don't think it's here, Kazuma. You really are a liability, Ryunosuke. Report, at once. Have you lost something? Is that it? Yes, we were just on our way to a party to celebrate my friend's victory here when I realised that my university pin badge was missing. Oh yeah, that does disappear. I never even thought of that.
A university pin badge, you say?
Yes, from my collar here, you see. Affirmative. Uniforms must be kept in prime condition at all times. Missing badge is unacceptable. Thought if I looked around, it would probably turn up somewhere. Like the old tale of the Koban coin and the steak.
A parable of which I'm acutely aware.
But have I exhausted my search now, really? The only logical conclusion is that someone must have stolen it. Don't look at me. I just don't find any old metal objects irresistible, you know. Imagine what will happen if little Trooper Ido here swallowed something like that. I'm afraid we'll have to give up, Ryunosuke. Still, if you tell the office your student number, they should be able to issue you with a new one. Oh, there was the bit about Ryunosuke always loses it. What's the matter? Don't tell me. Yes, I don't remember my student number. I don't believe it. I mean, this is the second time you've lost your badge, isn't it? Third, actually. If you didn't think you could remember it, you should have made a note of it somewhere. I told you that until I was blue in the face the last time this happened. Ah, yes, I do seem to remember someone telling me something along those lines. It was you, wasn't it? It was you, was it? You can't even remember who told you that you needed to remember it. Well, student numbers are 6 digits, Kazuma. Who could remember 6 whole digits? Umai isn't exactly a long-established university, you know. All our numbers are still rather low. In fact, they only use the last 3 digits. Well, that might help, I suppose. That might help. Ryunosuke, it's only 3 digits you needed to remember. Just 3. Sorry, my brain is such a disappointment.
Yes, well, anyway, young man, myself, I was greatly impressed with you in the courtroom today.
Oh, you mean me?
A lawyer already before you've even graduated, and such a loyal friend to this one.
This one? What's that supposed to mean? Oh no, I still have much to learn. In fact, that was brought home to me in no uncertain terms only last year. My Achilles heel was spectacularly exposed by my best friend here.
Indeed.
What? By me? This is the first I've heard about it. Yes, by Ryunosuke Naruhodo. You can't have forgotten, surely. It was last summer, at the speech contest. The speech contest? Oh, that. Contestants had to take the stage and deliver a public address on any subject they chose. We were competing to give the most compelling and powerful speech. Yours was great. It made a huge impression on the audience. Obviously, since I was a budding student of law, I was determined to win. And sure enough, one by one, my opposition fell. When I reached the final at last, I came up against you. Yes, so you did. Not being rude, but when I first laid eyes on you, I thought to myself, this cheeky, wide-eyed no-hoper is out of his depth. He's going to be a pushover. That's your version of not being rude, is it? Well, I paid for my complacency, because it brought on that humiliating defeat. Defeat? How are your ranks compromised? My speech was going very well. I had the audience in the palm of my hand. They hung on my every word. And then, when I came to the very last line...
Yes, what happened at the very last line?
It was supposed to be a climactic end. Unfortunately, I completely fouled it up.
Never.
You mean you stumbled on your words? Spectacularly. Even now, I can't believe I ruined it. Well, what on earth did you say, man? Yunosuke, you'd better say it. I still can't get my tongue around it. Sure, of course. I can still recall it perfectly. What you said at the end of your speech, or rather, what you intended to say at the end of your speech, was this. So arise, ladies and gentlemen, and applaud our forefathers' plight and the okay, the bit here is that Naruhodo is good at talking. So arise, ladies and gentlemen, and applaud our forefathers' plight and the fight for filial? It's gotta be filial. So arise, ladies and gentlemen, and applaud our forefathers' plight and the fight for filial piety. Piety. Oh, like piety, yeah. Wow. And what went wrong?
What indeed? Myself, I see no problem with the pronunciation of these paltry words.
In that case, old man, I invite you to say it yourself.
Very well then, myself. Ahem. So arise, ladies and gentlemen, and applaud our forefathers' plight and the flight of the... It's impossible! The flight for filial piety.
The arise, ladies and gentlemen part I delivered perfectly. But the next part had me floundering for a whole 5 minutes. By the end of it, I was on my knees in front of the podium, a blabbering mess. And that's when the audience started to heckle you. Arise, arise, they were shouting.
Hell on earth.
But then, of course, this man went and delivered his word-perfect speech with a perfect ending. How did it go again? Let me see. So, my dear fellows, the message is simple. Treat your father and mother with respect. Something like that. I mean, talk about stating the obvious. But the fact is, I lost to that speech.
Tongue-tied is the only way to describe it.
Well, it is quite tricky to say, I agree. That little fight for filial piety, especially. Fight for filial piety, that's too easy. Fight for filial piety. And ever since that day, I've had this question whirling around in my head. Why did our forefathers choose such an awkward phrase? Was it to mock their children? I mean, it should never have been called the filial piety in the first place. Filial piety in the first place. Okay. These jokes probably make better sense in Japanese. At least we're going to Great Britain soon. It might not come up much there. Well, anyway, having lost that accursed contest, I came after you to ask you a question. How is it that you never trip up on your words? I inquired. And you just gave me a broad smile and said, speaking fast is my hobby. I mean, really? What kind of a hobby is that? Do you think you could take your hand off your sword? Besides, it's just a way to pass the time. After that, you started talking to me at 10 to the dozen, like you were possessed almost. Honestly, you can't imagine the shock I suffered that day. You really can't. You're right, I really can't. Speaking fast is just the sort of hobby I'd expect a civilian like you to waste his time on. No, but civilian like you to waste his time on. Well, you have to practice, of course, but there are some simple things to start with. Like this famous one, for example. Swift samurai sword swipes silently sideways.
Ah, yes, even a decrepit tongue in a nailing frame such as mine can find its way around that one.
I've no doubt. It's just a bit of fun, really. I can't imagine anybody would struggle to say it. Isn't that right, Kazuma? Swift samurai sword. Ah! Blabbering mess by word 2. It's not just a samurai. Every good soldier needs to be able to handle a sword. That's why I've been busy teaching Ido the finer points of swordplay. None of this wordplay nonsense, Private. Come to think of it, not long after that, we started to attend lectures together, didn't we? We got into that debate about family values at the Sukiyaki place on campus. Do you remember? Yes, your argument was full of jokes and puns and wordplay as usual. I remember it well. Oh, was it? In any case, I swore that I would never let myself forget the shock you gave me back then. And as a symbol of how seriously I took that oath, I decided to wear this, my red Hachimaki headband. Sorry, Kazuma? Yes? You've lost me there, I'm afraid. I don't see the link. What does your red headband have to do with your oath? Because it will always remind me of that smug look on your face as you uttered those tantalizing words. What words? You mean another tongue twister? I practiced and practiced until my tongue bled, but in the end I mastered it. Mastered what? Well, I think it's time you heard this, actually. Listen carefully now. Here goes. Red headband, lead headband, dead headband. There! Word perfect, see? Red headband, lead headband, dead headband, red head... Red headband, lead headband, dead headband, red head... Yeah. You gotta do it fast. Word perfect, see? I'd actually been meaning to ask you about that. About the story behind your headband, I mean. Well, now you know, so that I'll never forget the shock and humiliation of that day. That's why I wear this red headband every single day without fail. Well, I don't know exactly how much of a shock you think you had back then, but it can't be more than the shock you've just given me now. What do you mean? Well, I'm sorry to have to tell you, but the tongue twister I said didn't go the way you seem to have remembered it. Huh? Just as famous as Swift Samurai swords, so I can't believe you don't know it, really. It goes, red bread pan, lead bread pan, dead bread man. Red bread pan, lead bread pan, dead bread man. Red bread pan, lead bread pan, dead bread man. Wait, what? Red bread pan... Ugh! It seems I've knocked some wind out of that headband of yours. It's not too late, Private. You could always start wearing a red bread pan on your head instead.
Your youthful vigor is manifest, young man. Your cheeks are glowing redder than your Hachimaki.
Ah! Why do so many words have to be so similar? So, looking forward to Great Britain then? Where you'll have to deliver speeches in court in English. I suppose. I can always shell sea cells. Oh, fuck you, game. I suppose I can always sell... Also, he's saying it wrong. Okay. I suppose I can always shell seashells on... Oh, I suppose I can always shell sea cells on the seashore. No. I want to try and say it wrong. I suppose I can always shell seashells on the seashore. I suppose I can always shell I suppose I can always shell sea cells. I suppose I can always shell sea cells on the seashore. There we go. Okay, these are nice and short. I like these.
Ah, Mr. Kazuma.
No, it's Mr. Asogi. Wait, is this going to be a bit where, like, I'm in the cupboard and I'm Asogi and I meet Sholmes? That would be fun. Yes, it's almost 2 weeks now since we left Japan. I can't believe how quickly time has gone. So, our next port of call will be Shanghai. Knock, knock, knock. Who's there? Who could it be at this hour?
A detective.
No.
A detective.
A detective? Who?
A great detective.
I don't get it. Oh, no, wrong voice. I don't get it. What's a great detective?
If you would just be so... if you would just be so kind as to open the door.
Oh, yes, sorry, of course. Is something wrong, detective? Are you investigating a case?
Wherever great detective goes, great cases occur. Indeed, I am the root of all evil. Let us engage. Wherever a great detective goes, great cases occur. Indeed, I am the root of all evil.
Sorry? Then I don't think I want you in my cabin. Kazuma makes a decent protagonist. Not as good as Ryunosuke, but...
Under our very noses, on this steamship, a terrible theft has just occurred.
What?
You noticed, I presume, the brief power failure a short while ago.
Oh yes, the power couldn't have been out for more than 10 minutes, though.
Indeed, yet that was ample time for this wicked crime to be perpetrated.
I see. Well, clearly it's a case that needs investigating.
Precisely. The culprit ran away in this direction, down the first-class cabin passageway here.
Really? The thief came this way?
I'm quite sure of it. It may have escaped the attention of the dim-witted crew, but not of the great detective. To that end, I would be obliged if you would allow me to investigate here in this cabin.
Well...
How curious. Is there some reason why it would inconvenience you to have your cabin searched? Your furtive glance towards the wardrobe tells me all I need to know.
Inconvenience me? Well, I'd be lying if I said no. After all, there's a stowaway in that wardrobe right over there. I try to notice, like, the subtle differences in how the thoughts of different characters are when we play as them. They're all a little bit different from each other. Like, this is not... You wouldn't imagine Ryunosuke saying this, right? Like, it just doesn't fit him. Or thinking it, rather.
It's just me in here, you see?
No one else.
So, you might perhaps want to focus your attention on one of the other first-class cabins. As it happens, you are the only first-class passenger at present. The other cabins are vacant.
Oh!
Did that rather tragic rumbling of the stomach arise from within you, my good fellow?
Of course. As I say, I'm the only person here. It's not long until dinner time now, so perhaps we could go, we could do this afterwards.
I do apologize, sir. It is of the first importance that the investigation is not delayed. Now, if you'll excuse me.
Wait, where did he go? How did he suddenly move all the way over there?
Yes, without doubt. The culprit were to be hiding in this cabin. It would have to be inside this wardrobe.
Da-da-da, da-da-da-da.
I shall need to examine this wardrobe thoroughly. I presume you have no objection.
I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to decline. Really, you won't find any... Achoo! Achoo!
Did those two rather tragic sneezes arise from your good self?
Of course they did. As I said, I'm the only person in here.
You have a curious knack for talking while sneezing, then. Twice, no less.
This is going to be a tough one to argue.
I was watching you quite intently, sir, and I assure you, I saw no signs of a sneeze.
Couldn't Ryunosuke have held his nose?
As I was saying, I shall need to examine this wardrobe.
We've had it now, then. The game's up. And he's not in there. Poof! Da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da.
Nobody hiding in there, it seems.
What?
You seem surprised.
No, not at all. Yes, I am. He was in there, for sure. I shut the doors on him myself. More visitors? Who's this now?
Beef Stroganoff. Excuse me.
Oh, Seaman Stroganoff.
Sorry for disturbing, but crime has been committed on board a ship.
Yes, I heard. A terrible theft, apparently.
How do you know of this?
Well, the detective here just informed me, you see.
Detective?
Yes, I assumed you must have asked him to investigate. Detective, could you... Where did he go?
I must ask you to cooperate with investigation into this crime. Fully.
Uh-oh, he's glaring at the wardrobe already. Oh, and he's gonna find Sholmes in there? No. What?
Well done, you found me.
So where's Ryunosuke? What are you doing? No, I'm not Ryunosuke. What are you doing, hiding in my wardrobe?
My good man, I was merely assessing the practicality of concealment in such a place. And I would say that, at a push, a human could survive for up to 5 minutes in that cramped space.
Ryunosuke's been in there for a fortnight. Is he not a human?
Who are you?
Sure, this is the moment of truth. The great detective is about to unveil the sordid details of this wretched crime.
You mean to say?
Yes, there can be no doubt as to that the culprit of this terrible theft did indeed conceal himself within this wardrobe.
What?
But that's impossible. He couldn't have done. Because my best friend was in there the entire time. Or at least, I thought he was.
How can you be sure of this?
Elementary, my dear fellow. The criminal left behind the most revealing evidence. How else could you explain these 3 bones?
What the? He's right. Look at those gnawed bones in there. And 3 of them.
The criminal has escaped this time, but I will find him and crush him.
Could I ask you something, Detective?
Why, yes, of course. I am always delighted to answer an inquiring mind.
In this terrible theft, what exactly was stolen?
Aha! What else? But some steaks on the rib bone.
Ah, did you say steaks on the rib bone?
For this evening's dinner, 3 rib steaks were stolen from ship's kitchen only a short time ago. There was malfunction with the generator and ship was without lights for 10 minutes. Chef who saw the criminal said that he ran away down first-class passageway.
Oh, it was Ryunosuke.
And now I am on his tail.
I'm afraid to say, dear fellow, that your man is no longer in this cabin.
But how?
Oh, through the cabin door, no less. Ah, having devoured his haul in the wardrobe, the culprit discarded the bones and concealed himself behind the cabin door as you came inside. Then, when attention was turned to the wardrobe, he seized his chance to escape through the open door.
What?
Make haste, my good man. After the culprit. I shall follow presently.
Hold it! Hold it!
Something troubles you, sir.
I think maybe criminal is not running away at all.
What are you suggesting?
Now I know where the dog is buried, Mr. Asogi.
Me?
Da! When I think that you are culprit, everything is falling in places. The criminal had disappeared in first-class passageway, the bones in the wardrobe. All close are pointing their fingers at you.
Don't be ridiculous. I would never.
Yes, of course. I established at once that you couldn't be the perpetrator of this crime.
You did.
Why? How are you so sure?
My dear fellow, there are but 2 things in this world which one can rely on with total certainty.
What 2 things?
The first is the word of a great detective, and the second... The second is the tragic rumbling of an empty belly.
Not again. Not again.
When I first entered this cabin, there did arise from this gentleman a belly rumbling so odiously tragic that it confirmed beyond all doubt that the man had not eaten a single rib steak in some time, let alone 3.
Oh, Ryunosuke's hiding on the bed and it's actually the creaking of the bed or something like that. Why do I Kazuma. No, that's Ryunosuke's voice. Why do I have to suffer this humiliation when I've done nothing wrong?
Persis, I will catch this thief. He cannot have gone far.
Indeed, assuming he decided against a post-meal constitutional swim. Well, if you will excuse me now, my apologies for upsetting your evening.
Detective, one moment, please. Yes? Yes. That was a most remarkable deduction. Perhaps you'd be kind enough to tell me your name.
It quite slipped my mind. I have been talking with the one and only Aleks.
I see. Well, I'm Kazuma Asogi. I'm a student on my way to Great Britain.
Pleased to make your acquaintance, Mr. Asogi. Oh, and before I forget...
Yes?
I feel I should warn you. Live cargo is strictly forbidden on this vessel. So you would do well to conceal the stowaway currently lying low under your bed as carefully as possible.
Oh, under the bed? Under the bed?
I bid you farewell then, Mr. Asogi.
So he already knew. At the start of that trial. At the start of that investigation.
He's uncovered our secret. I suppose I should have expected nothing less of a great detective. Now then. When did you move in under the bed? I thought we'd
It's weird being the other way around.
When did you move in under the bed? I thought we'd had it but I thought we'd had it when he opened the wardrobe door. Ah, well, it was thanks to that split-second chance you engineered. That I what? You distracted him for a moment, remember? When you suggested that he investigated the other cabins instead. Oh yes, he turned to look towards the corridor, didn't he? Well, I couldn't see what he was doing, of course. But I thought to myself, it's now or never. And the next thing I knew, I was under the bed. You really know how to give me a scare, don't you? Anyway, what's all this about the rib steaks, eh?
Also, this is a pose. This is a Naruhodo pose we haven't actually seen in the whole normal game.
What's all this about the rib steaks, eh?
Ugh, sorry about that.
I've just been so hungry.
And he's still got his pin badge in this one.
Ever since we left Japan, stuck in that tiny wardrobe. Well, you should know. You've been splitting all your meals with me. You must be starving too, surely. Right on cue. Right on cue. And there was that power cut before. Wasn't there?
For about 10 minutes.
So it was then. I caught a whiff of the most delicious smell. I thought to myself, it's now or never. And the next thing I knew, I had the steak in my hands. This man just can't help getting himself into trouble. Well, all right, you were hungry. But 3 steaks? Thanks to you, 3 crewmen are going to go without tonight, I imagine. No, it was just the one. What? I only took 1 rib steak from the kitchen, that's all. But I don't understand. Hey, I'm not that selfish. If I'd stolen 3 steaks, I'd at least have tossed 1 your way.
Wait, so who are the other 2 then? We've got another... I'm trying to think. Surely it's like a little bit of a... One for the cat, and one for... I forgot her name. Nikolai. No. Why? That's not... Nicolina.
I'm not your pet dog. Well, in that case, who stole the other 2? Ah! Do you think? Could there be a ghost on board? A meat-loving ghost? There can only have been a single bone in the wardrobe when Ryunosuke moved to hide under the bed.
Wait, Shome stole them?
Which means that the other 2 bones could only have been put there by one very flesh and blood person. Haha! What's so funny? We're on the haunted ghost ship. A great detective, or a great mischief maker. Either way, I think I'd like to spend a little more time getting to know that man. The great Hairlock Sholmes.
Nice. I like these. These are cool. I think I can get through all of them. Gregson. Before time runs out. Oh. This is going to be funny. It'll be like Strongheart saying, Gregson, solve it. You have 50 seconds. I forgot his voice though.
Ah, no. Welcome to Her Majesty's glorious British Empire. Empire.
Here we are again. Every time we visit here, the atmosphere in this place seems to get more and more overbearing. Just think, we could be at home with Mr. Sholmes and Iris having a nice cozy breakfast. We have a duty to report the outcome of the case, especially since we're guests here in Britain. So I'm afraid this visit could not have been avoided. I suppose not, but is there even anyone here? You could hear a pin drop in this place. It's too solemn for its own good. It's very quiet, isn't it? The only sound is the ticking of the great clock, and as it keeps perfect time. A horse? What was that, I wonder? The usual comforting sound of the clock seems to have been joined by a less comforting, shuffling sound today. You're right, something's disturbing the rhythmical ticking. Sounds rather like an unfit middle-aged man running from pillar to post, clumsily.
Oh, yo, calling unfit.
Oh, Inspector Gregson, what are you doing here?
My. Isn't it flaming obvious? 58 seconds remaining,
No, that's too similar to Kazuma. What the hell voice did I give this guy? Surely this guy's going to appear in the second game, so I've got to get it right.
58 seconds remaining, Inspector.
Oh, we'll have to talk later, sunshine.
Also, I was right about it being 50 seconds. Wow, what a guess. Good morning, Lord Strongheart. And also I learnt that his name isn't... Well, it's got multiple puns in it. Right? Like male Strongheart, but it's like Maelstrom Heart. And his name in the Japanese version is Heart Vortex or something. And then I read somewhere, I can't remember where I read that, like, this. Oh yeah, in the thingies, in the art book, not the art book, the stuff that comes with the DLC, whatever the fuck it is. He has a unicorn horn, and his stick, his cane looks like a unicorn horn because of the unicorn on the crest, on the UK government crest. Wow, he's really looking fiercely at his pocket watch today.
And good morning to you. Business so early in the day. Business so early in the day. Business so early in the day.
Oh, yes. It's about the other day. We are to deliver our report, Lord Strongheart, as our dealings with Mr. Natsume are now over.
Ah, yes. The little Japanese man. I've already cast my eyes over Van Zykes' report. I must say, the outcome surprised me. I thank you for a job well done.
You are too kind, my lord.
It's not here, it's not there, and it's not over there either.
I hope you don't mind me asking, but what exactly is the inspector doing? He's been herring around between the bookshelves, looking beside himself with worry.
He's looking for a particular work. The Lion's Pride. Ah, The Lion's Pride.
Now there's an all too familiar title.
I'd heard it was a popular tale, so I obtained a copy from the rental library. However, it wasn't able to maintain my interest, so I soon cast it aside. I happened to notice a vacant spot on one of my shelves at the time, so I duly stowed the book there. Unfortunately, I no longer remember where that was.
No, not there. Not here either. Come on, where are you lions hiding?
The book is due back today, so I've asked Gregson to locate it for me.
No, that sounds too much like Van Zyke's.
Yes. The book is due back today, so I've asked Gregson to locate it for me with his investigative prowess. Inside 5 minutes.
That works.
Inside 5 minutes. Inside 5 minutes.
I must say, I've never seen anyone working so hard to find something. He's like a man possessed.
Yes. That's because his month's salary is staked upon the outcome.
So they cut salaries too. Thank you, Shutakumi, for this one. That's whose instigation? Let me guess, this stony-faced lord. And the 5-minute time limit? What's the significance of that?
There is none. Just my vulgar, mischievous spirit showing itself, I'm afraid. Just my mischievous, vulgar spirit showing itself, I'm afraid.
Oh, by your own admission.
I can't. My feet.
Killing me.
5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Time's up, Inspector. Which means that your next month... which means that next month you will work unpaid and have no days off.
No days off. There really are just so many books here. It's overwhelming.
For some, perhaps, I have purchased every book, new or old, on the subject of law from all over the globe. Wouldn't have believed it a few short decades ago. A place like this couldn't have existed.
Yeah, I remember I was reading about this. Public libraries didn't really exist until the Victorian era. Like, it just wasn't the thing that was common because there were no typewriters, so everything was printing press, or handwritten, or I don't know what other technologies there were, to be honest, but
A place like this couldn't have existed.
what do you mean, Inspector? Oh, she said the words. She said, what do you mean? Aha.
When I was a lad, no one ever dreamed of buying books.
Oh, I see. Western books are such luxury items, I suppose, with their leather covers and fancy bindings.
No, that's not it.
Oh.
There was a tax on paper, see? There was a tax on paper, see?
On paper?
Yeah, it was abolished about 30 years back now, but it used to be the case. There was a tax levied on any kind of paper. There was a tax levied on any kind of paper. So, obviously, that meant folk couldn't afford to buy any books at all.
Ah, so that is why places like the rental library you mentioned before came into existence, Lord Stronghard.
It is not for a minister to comment on tax policy, as I am not the Chancellor of the Exchequer. You must ask the Chancellor of the Exchequer. Indeed, vestiges of the paper tax system, you could say. The general public consider books as items for hire. London is home to a vast lending library of some 3.5 million books.
You couldn't hope to read all of that even if you were reincarnated 10,000 times.
Even I would choose to rent a book rather than purchase it if I knew I would read it infrequently.
The subject of tax has actually surprised us already in the last few days. It came up in Mr. Natsume's trial. It seems that the window in this room was filled in. His room was filled in due to some kind of window tax.
That would be true. Fortunately, the window tax was abolished some 40 years ago. Sadly, in the East End in particular, many windowless houses remain. Britain's always had a bit of a thing for taxing stuff. Whatever they can tax, they tax. Sugar, salt, tea, coffee, you name it. Candles, beards. And, you know, in about 100 and so years' time, when they've all got cars and stuff and there's a petrol tax, yeah? You know, yeah, people will be trying to come up with electric cars rather than these silly gas cars, and then they'll just tax the blinding electric cars even more. You know it.
Wait, sorry, what was that last one? Did you say beards? Shit, I'm not paying my tax.
Yup, the beard tax. Never heard of it?
Never! Why should people have to pay money just because they let their facial hair grow?
You may well ask. Well, I suppose it's because it makes them look self-important.
Yeah, at this time, beards were a sort of like, fancy thing. Whereas now you won't find many politicians with beards. The Naruhodos will have a very strict family policy of no facial hair, I think. Oh, okay.
Oh, you can relax. The beard tax was confined to the annals of history, long ago.
Even so, it's clearly something that the British really love. Paying taxes, I mean.
Paying them? You've got that back to front, sunshine.
You can't deny that you've had a lot of funny taxes over the years. You'd never find anything like that in Japan.
We love spending the taxes.
Would you, Miss Usato? In actual fact, I'm afraid to say that you would, Mr. Naruhodo. What? No, you don't mean. Surely there's never been a window tax in Japan. No, but there have been similarly obscure taxes. For example, in the Edo period, there was a frontage tax. What was that? It was a tax not on windows, but on the entrance to properties. The larger a property's entrance was, the greater the tax would have been levied on it. Even today, some mansions survive with extremely narrow entrances due to that old form of taxation. I had no idea.
So you Japanese are as twisted as us Brits.
But we never had a beer tax. I mean, that's really going a step too far. Shooter Kumi wrote a fucking mini scene about taxes. I love it. Well, no, that's very true. I'm not aware of any taxes for beards, at least. What do you mean, at least? Well, rather than tax them, the shogunate did once prohibit them outright. The ruling class prohibited beards? It was called the Great Beard Prohibition. It was called the Great Beard Prohibition. It was an Edo period edict. But why did the powers that be want to ban beards?
Because it makes people look self-important? Just an idea.
It would seem that the rulers in the East and the West have had very similar ideas over the years. There have been other unusual taxes in our history, even in our current Meiji period. J- Japan and Britain, you know, they're both little islands off a mainland where the mainland is, you know, kind of a big deal, right? Like, it makes sense that they have a lot in common. They have. For example, though it was before either of us were born, there was a rabbit tax. There was a tax on those adorable fluffy creatures, like the ones who make mochi sweets on the moon. Japanese. No, I'm not that culturally. I don't have enough cultural knowledge to understand that one. Yes, and it was an extremely large tax too. The government demanded extraordinary sums of money. This just gets stranger and stranger. What was the reason for that bizarre tax then? Well, after Japan opened its doors to the world, there was an unprecedented rabbit boom in the Meiji capital. This happened another time more recently in Japan, I think. They introduced a bunch of cats, and the cats just sort of dominated everything, and they just had to, like, I think maybe it was the cats that got rid of. There's a thing with cats. Either the cats were killing a species that was dominating or from elsewhere, or the cats were dominating and people had to kill the cats. I'm not sure which. I think if they killed the cats, I think it's that, to be honest. It sounds like it's the sort of thing that... Well, after Japan opened... Oh, yeah. A boom. Yes, keeping rabbits became hugely popular, and new species were traded at exorbitant prices. People were even swindled out of all their money for exotically colored rabbits. Like colored chicks, I suppose.
Hard to imagine, though. Rabbits are timid and quiet. Wouldn't have thought that one could bankrupt you.
So in response to this worrying social vogue, government imposed a rabbit tax. I suppose they couldn't just ignore the problem. And it worked, because the rabbit boom came to an abrupt end. 6 years later, the tax was abolished. Well, I hate to say it about my own country, but Japan is strange. And there's more. After the rabbit tax was abolished then, of course, society reacted by launching straight into a second rabbit boom. Oh dear, government didn't think that one through, did they? This is the best thing that Shu Takumi has ever written.
Oh, your ideas about the world are very much altered by the position you hold in society. If you are responsible for the running of a country, you will feel the need to raise revenue keenly. Without a stable taxation system, the whole country would go down the drain.
Well, yes, I suppose so. But some of these taxes...
Oh, that's precisely why ministers of the crown, ministers of state?
No, you don't call them ministers of state.
That's precisely why ministers of the crown use their wiles to invent new and novel ways of taxing the public.
Novel ways?
Tell me, Mr. Naruhodo, if you were one of my country's statesmen...
Me? A British statesman?
Yes, what novel tax would you impose? Pray, give us something truly original. Inside 5 seconds. Inside 5 seconds.
What? Oh, it's gonna be a choice. Think of something that everyone uses, Mr. Naruhodo, and to really squeeze every penny out of the population. It's gonna be something that exists today. And he's gonna be like, oh, what a brilliant idea. That's quite the intended stare. I'm very glad Susato-san isn't in charge.
Your time is up. So, what's your answer?
Well... air, maybe. Yes, how about air? This is good stuff. Let me read this again. Think of something that everyone uses, Mr. Naruhodo, and really squeeze every penny out of the population. It's quite the intense stare. I'm very glad Susato-san isn't in charge.
So, your time is up. So, what's your answer?
Well, air maybe. Yes, how about air?
An air tax, you say?
There is a pollution tax these days, so I guess he's not completely wrong. Oh, well done, Mr. Naruhodo. A truly novel and fiendish idea. Well, everyone has to breathe, so while the population is inhaling air, my government is inhaling money.
Blimey, you're a tyrant at heart, Blimey, you're a tyrant at heart, eh? A somewhat radical solution to a country's revenue problems, but sadly not an original one.
No, you mean to say?
Oh, it was you stupid Franks down south.
Surely not. You mean a tax on air has been imposed in the past?
It was last century. The finance minister of our neighbour France.
Yes! Yes! Yes, I guessed it. This is peak Shutakumi. This is peak Shutakumi, dude. Bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 ba-dum, ba-dum, bum.
It was last century. The finance minister of our neighbour France proposed it.
Proposed it, though. What? If I ever go for a visit, I'm holding my breath. Oh my god, this is too good. Shutakumi, you mad lad.
Unsurprisingly, it was strongly opposed by the public and soon scrapped. The minister didn't last long either.
Yes, then. Oh, this is the best scene. Oh dear. Oh dear. Although clearly that would have been an untenable situation. The public at large are a force to be reckoned with.
Government is a mere stability, you see.
I really hope there's a Humphrey Appleby. I really hope that Great Ace Attorney 2 has a Humphrey Appleby character. Oh, I would love it so much.
Don't I know it?
How about you, Inspector? What new tax would you impose?
Let me see. My first thought is a tax on objections.
Sorry?
Been hearing far too many of them recently in court. There's a particular lawyer I have in mind as it happens. So I think an objection tax could be very handy.
Because, you see, you don't allow your personal views to influence your work in public office. He likes that one.
I reckon 5p for every objection raised would be about right. Ah, yes. A most amusing proposal, Gregson.
Most an amusing proposal, my lord. Oh, this is the best.
Well then, I think it's your turn now.
Sorry, my turn for what?
Why, what else? To locate my missing copy of the Lion's Pride.
Oh!
It's one of the shelves in this room. Of that I'm certain. Now, I shall give you 10 minutes. And let's stake your student stipend on it, Fail to find the book and you forfeit next month's payment.
Objection!
That'll be 5 bob, thanks. Your time starts now. Oh, and one more thing. I believe you just said the word objection.
Kindly leave your fivepence over there before you begin your combing the shells. This tax is going to be the death of me. I love it. Oh my god, dude. That was the funniest shit. I've been going for an hour, holy crap. I'll reply to Sam's message on WhatsApp. Da 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 da. Da na. Ba ba na 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 I need a drink of water. Oh, you know what, I'll have some Professor Peppy. I'm so happy. Like, this scene, right? Shu Takumi and I have literally pretty much the exact same sense of humor when it comes to government stuff. Oh, it's so good. Who knows? Maybe Shu Takumi is Watch Jazz Minister. That would be amazing. The fourth escapade unfolds one morning on Baker Street when Iris has prepared breakfast for everyone as usual. But Ryunosuke wakes to find an envelope under his door containing a death threat. Who on earth could have put it there? And why? That does sound like a scene from an actual Sherlock Holmes novel, doesn't it? Just a random note. Open the window. Sholmes is sweet. Sweet. Na, 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 na. Menu music. Good morning, Iris. Good morning, Mr. Sholmes.
Oh, morning, Susie. I'll get breakfast on the table for all of us.
Ah, Mr. Sholmes. Morning.
Ah, come now. Why the long face?
Oh, sorry. The thing is, I just had a rather strange envelope posted under my door this morning. There's some rather strange things inside.
What strange things? Oh, what was it, Rono? Do I catch the scent of a mystery in the air?
Nothing so exciting, I'm afraid, Iris. It was just 5 orange pips. I can't imagine what it could possibly.
What? Orange pips, Mr. Naruhodo, and 5 of them.
What's the matter with you? It's a bit of an overreaction, isn't it?
An overreaction? Mr. Naruhodo, you don't understand. It's a warning, a notice of imminent danger to your life.
What? To my life? What's the meaning of all this, Mr. Sholmes?
My dear fellow, why do you make such an inquiry of me?
Because the name of the sender was written on the envelope. And it was yours.
Oh, you're right, Rono. It says sent by Sholmes, envoy of hell.
Ah, ha, 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 ha. So, my little ploy has been exposed. So, well, so be it. Cast your mind back, if you will, Mr. Naruhodo, to the time of our dining last night.
Oh yes, Miss Susato cooked Japanese food for us.
Indeed, in particular, you may recall the final norimaki sushi roll that I was about to savor. That is, before you swooped in with your clacking chopsticks and filched it from under my nose.
Oh, I assumed because you left it that you didn't want it. There's a little bit of a cultural thing.
I'd left it, my dear fellow, because I'd planned to enjoy it as my very last mouthful. And so now it must be your very last mouthful. Here, I have a gun.
Oh, this game.
I'd left it, my dear fellow, because I'd planned to enjoy it as my very last mouthful. Surely you must have noticed my intent by the subtle dilation of my right pupil.
Perhaps a clearer sign would be helpful next time. Just an idea. I bet, is it an actual Japanese cultural norm to, if somebody leaves leftovers, it's take what you like? One thing I do know, food culture wise, some places in the world having leftovers is like, whatever. And I feel like that's usually the Western atmosphere, attitude as well. It's like, if you got leftovers, just store it in the fridge and have it, you know? Some places in the world, leaving leftovers is like really rude because it's, you know, telling the person who cooked that they don't know what a good portion is. And then in some places in the world, it's actually wrong to not leave leftovers, because if you're not leaving any leftovers, it means you've eaten it all, which means you're still hungry and you want more, and they'll just keep bringing out more and more. I remember this, I can't remember if it's like a comedy skit or something, but somebody was said at some point in time that it must be a comedy skit, right, about them like keep eating and eating, and they just keep getting more and more, and they don't know why.
In summary, the post you received earlier is a notice of impending revenge. You should be quaking in your boots.
Really? Sorry. At least I've got this nice music as I'm typing. Alright, I'm leaving it now. I can't. No, I can. I'll check my phone one more time if I get one more message, but that's it. Really? Really? Because I went straight out into the garden and planted them. I'm hopeful we may grow some exotic fruit.
There's no point in sending a notice of impending revenge if the person you send it to doesn't know what it is. Well, I knew, of course, because I read this book. The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. On sale now in all the major London bookshops and receiving rave reviews.
Oh yes, of course. It's finally been published, hasn't it? I hear that it's selling very well.
It is. 12 short stories in one volume. I've earned a lifetime spending money already.
And it has further bolstered my name. In fact, only the other day, a Bohemian king sought to engage my services.
Really? That's extraordinary.
Of course, the gentleman persisted with some pretense about being a fishmonger for the duration. But only a fool would presume to be able to deceive my eyes with such a charade. Charade.
So how did you know that he was a king then?
Why, there is no mystery, my dear fellow. A distinct smell of fish accompanied the man's lowly apparel. And though he tried to hide it, the left side of his moustache quivered in a quite manifest manner.
Oh, Mr. Sholmes. That's simply brilliant.
Having neatly resolved the case for the man, I was sent a quantity of fresh cod as a mark of his appreciation.
I think perhaps you shouldn't discount the possibility that he actually was a fishmonger. Oh, is that... Can anyone else smell burning? I need a cloth. Oh yes, you're right. And look, smoke. I think maybe...
Fire! Fire! There's a fire, everyone! Fire! Fire! There's a fire, everyone!
Really? A fire?
We must all leave at once. Everybody out of the building. Oh, everybody out of the building.
No, wait. I have to go back to my room first.
Are you deranged? If you're not asphyxiated by the smoke, the flames will burn you to death.
But my Dharma doll. I can't let my Dharma burn. It means too much. Drat. Sorry, but I'm gonna make a dash for it upstairs. That's such a bad laugh. Reno! Oh, 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 Reno, you're so funny. This is no time for jokes, Iris. Go, quickly, get out of here. Better. But there is no fire. Is there, Hurley? Huh? Ah, what a delight to see that ploy enacted in the flesh. I wouldn't have dared to dream I should be so lucky. Mrs. Sato? Ah! Ha 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 ha!
Indeed, it was a ploy. A devilment engineered by my puckish spirit.
It was all a trick? But why? And how?
It is a simple experiment of the mind, Mr. Naruhodo. When his life is threatened, a fellow is compelled instinctively to protect that property to which he attaches matching importance.
And after your own life, Reno, the most important thing to you seems to be your Dharma doll. Let's not dwell on that, shall we, Iris? So, you knew all along, Miss Usato, that there was a trick? Yes, of course. The very ploy is described in this book. The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. On sale now in all major London bookshops and receiving rave reviews. Not a game.
I have used that device quite satisfactorily in the past to solve a case.
Oh yes, it was a great success, wasn't it? But then it became something of a habit, didn't it? You started yelling fire at every crime scene. In the end, people started to pay no attention to you at all.
Yes, that's true. There was a time when I was known as the Sholmes who cried wolf.
I think there's a lesson to be learnt in there somewhere.
But sadly my little ploy failed to yield results this time. Iris was utterly unmoved.
What do you mean?
Well, I was anticipating that Iris would immediately expose her secret hiding place. The location of the nest egg she must have cached somewhere in this room.
Nest egg? You think Iris has some secret savings?
Why, naturally. The book is selling like hotcakes after all. After all, it is a simple deduction to indeed conclude that the profits must be concealed within these walls.
Oh, Mr. Sholmes, are you in need of money? Oh, I bet I know what it is. It's that new microscope that's gone on sale, isn't it, Early?
What else? I have such a strong desire to own one, yet my purse is £1 too light. And as no offer of loan has been forthcoming, I have been forced to resort to an alternative stratagem.
Hey, sorry, Hurley, but I'm not falling for that. Not coming from the Shamesy cried wolf.
Ah, how vexing.
You really shouldn't be trying to steal a 10-year-old's savings, you know. My book is full of little tricks like that, you say? The armoury of the great detective. Except that in this case, both the orange pips and the fake fire fell a little flat, didn't they?
Oh, I have plenty more tricks up my sleeve. Take, for example, the case of the Boscombe Valley mystery.
That's a real Holmes story, right? I'm already filled with dread just from the title.
It is a tale of extraordinary skill on part of the great detective. The skill of tracking.
Tracking?
When I arrived at the scene of the crime, in the eponymous valley, there were footprints everywhere. But my eye was immediately drawn to one set in particular.
Oh, Mr. Sholmes, your detective instincts are truly remarkable.
As you know, my dear madam, no detail, no matter how small, escapes the scrutiny of these eyes. So, I tracked my quarry, following the trail of his footprints, all the way to the man's place of residence.
It led you directly to the culprit's house. What a triumph.
You misunderstand. It led me directly to my own house, my dear fellow.
Huh?
Well, the footprints were, in the final analysis, those made by my own shoes.
Hurley had left here for Boscombe Valley as soon as he received the telegram about the case, you see. And then he followed his own trail straight back here to Baker Street.
Now, Iris, please, you make it sound almost humdrum, but I assure you, it is no easy feat. Checking of this nature is a skill possessed only by the great Sherlock Holmes.
You're right, it really is extraordinary.
Quite so. Extraordinary is the word, and let it be the last on the subject.
Why did he bring that up?
Anyway, needless to say, I subsequently went on to solve the case with various other deductions.
Yes, it's the various other deductions that I'm interested in.
Ah, well, you shall have to read the book then. I'm sure Iris has penned it with her usual flourish.
Oh, absolutely. I've put an ingenious spin on a great detective's exploits. It must have been very ingenious to make this man sound even remotely credible as a detective. Wait, is that... Does it smell like something's burning again? We've had enough devilment for one day, Mr. Sholmes. Put your pookish spirit to bed. Weren't we cooking dinner?
I assure you, this has nothing to do with me or my spirit. What?
Oh no! The smoke is getting thicker! You mean, it's not a trick this time? There really is a...
Fire! Fire! There's a fire, everyone!
Ah! Miss Usato, where are you going?
Stand aside, Mr. Naruhodo.
Ah, easy, Mr. Sholmes. What are you? Smash. Mr. Sholmes! Why did he just chuck out that bust of Napoleon on the floor? Oh, look at that. In amongst all the broken porcelain. Coins, sovereigns in fact, worth a whole pound each.
Come, everyone. We must leave at once. Evacuate the building.
You fell for it, Hurley. Look, hook, line and sinker.
Ah.
Wait, you mean Iris? I certainly wouldn't have guessed that's where you'd hidden it.
Do you mean to say that this smoke was...
My own bookish spirit needs to come out and play sometimes too, you know.
What? Ah, of course.
I know what it is, Iris. It's that indoor herb garden that went on sale last week, isn't it? That's what you were after.
I want one so desperately, but I'm £4 short. And even though you told me you didn't have any money to spare before, I knew you'd have a secret nest egg somewhere in this room.
Ah, you've outwitted me again.
You really shouldn't let yourself be outwitted by a 10-year-old child, you know. What the hell is this model?
So, thank you for the loan, Hurley.
That wasn't in the game at all.
Oh, but wait.
What's the matter?
Where's Susie? She disappeared.
Oh yes, that's right. She ran up the stairs before, didn't she?
Oh, what are you all still doing in here? We have to evacuate. It won't be long before the fire is... Ah! Sorry, Susie. Children will get up to mischief once in a while, you know. It's all perfectly harmless.
Harmless maybe, but oh so devious.
Bum 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 bum. Oh well. At least nobody was hurt.
Apart from Napoleon and my secret hoard. Now, tell us, Miss Susato, what is it that you went fleet-footedly to fetch?
Sorry? Oh, no, nothing. This is just... No, this is nothing. Susie, that's your notebook detailing all of Reno's trials, isn't it? It's bulging at the seams.
What? Ah, a testament to the various people you've helped over the past months.
Miss Usato,
Well, I am your judicial assistant, after all. I would do anything to ensure the safety of these records, even risk my life if necessary. I mean, it's very important to me. It's like a diary of everything we've achieved together.
I'm getting all teary-eyed now.
Yes, in stark contrast to a certain someone who would have fetched his Daramador, I must say.
I think I'll do 4 today, 4 tomorrow. Unless, what's the time? It's 10:16. You know what? This is just going to piss me off if I don't do them all, so... Naruhodo the Hoarder. There was a bit about in the game about that, wasn't there? When he was looking around the place, I'm like, you know what? I could actually buy all of this stuff. And I can't remember who, but they said,
That's how they get you, Rono.
hello, I'm back.
Oh, hello, Mr. Naruhodo. Did you have a good outing? Hi, Rono. What's the matter? Your eyes are as big as dinner plates.
Iris, I wasn't expecting to see you here. I just made some tea, Mr. Naruhodo. Would you like a cup? Cup or two, yes. Definite tea. Ah. Alright, Rono, what's going on? You're acting extremely strangely. What, me? No, not at all. I'm as normal can be. Normality itself, see? Not again, Mr. Naruhodo. Sorry? Not what again? What do you mean, Suzy? Well, whenever he goes out on his own lately, he always seems to come back with a peculiar new... excuse me. Come back with a peculiar new purchase. Wait, this doesn't make sense. This is definitely non-canon, this one. Because when we first went to Windybanks, we're like, what the hell is Windybanks? I've never heard of this. Well, you know, what the hell? The pawnbrokery, blah, 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 blah. And we had to learn about what a pawnbrokery is. So it doesn't make sense that he was using it before then. Peculiar? Peculiar? What's peculiar about the things I've bought? You seem to think that anything British is a curio you must simply have. You keep buying items of bric-a-brac even though you don't know what they are. Well, there are rather a lot of bric-a-brac shops and pawnbrokers and the like around here. Oh, maybe he's been to a different... Okay. It was. It's when I've been to Lord Strongheart's to give my weekly report. I'm always so nervous beforehand. On the way home, I just find myself in those stupid shops and... Yes, I just find myself in those shops and... Yes, alright, I can't deny it. I bought something. You're right, you can't deny it because your eyes are wider than ever. You really ought to put up a warning sign about them. They're bigger than some potholes around here. It's hard to resist things in the bric-a-brac shop. It's also cheap. Mr. Sholmes has given me lots of useful advice about how to pick out the real bargains. You must remember, Rono, that Hurley likes to have fun with you. Take his advice with a big pinch of salt. Well, that's true. That thing he told me was a pot stand wasn't a pot stand at all. But I'd never have guessed it was a collapsible top hat. No, and I'd never have guessed that you could fill up this once empty room so quickly. Honestly, it's overflowing with things we don't need now. I mean, look at those scales. Not once have you weighed something on them. I know, but ever since I first stood in the suspension court, I don't know why, but it just felt like I had to have a pair. I've just really wanted my own little set of scales. Let's see it then, Mr. Naruhodo. What have you come home with today? Oh, well, it's, one of these. What is it? It looks all dry and shriveled up in a bowl. Really, Mr. Naruhodo, what is it? It's a sea anemone. An anemone? Yes, I mean, I know it doesn't look like it at the moment. It's all shriveled up, like you said. Aren't sea anemones living creatures? The ones that dance about on the seabed? Yes, exactly. The ones that dance about on the seabed. Oh, they sell sea anemones in bric-a-brac shops here in Britain? I don't know whether they normally do or not, but I know that I bought one today. Why, Rono? Well, yes. The aquarium, of course. Aquarium? I don't know that word. Well, according to the shopkeeper, Keeping sea creatures in tanks was hugely popular here in London before. Oh, we haven't scaled over. We haven't went over there yet. We haven't looked. Is it not there yet?
Oh yes, some people have beautiful fish in seawater tanks, it's true. Having an aquarium became popular because the old glass tax was abolished.
There it is again, rearing its ugly head. The subject of taxation.
It was a real craze for a while. Everyone in London had one. For a while. Yes, it didn't last long. People's enthusiasm soon waned. It's just far too much work to be changing the seawater regularly in a city like London.
Never a truer word said, I'm sure. You'd think people might have realised that from the start, really, wouldn't you?
Anyway, that was long before I was born. So now everyone jokes that there's an unloved aquarium covered in dust in every attic in the capital. In every attic in the capital.
And it's true, there's one in this attic too. When I told the man in the bric-a-brac shop about it, he had these words of wisdom. That's why this is the age of the sea anemone. And that made a lot of sense to me.
It made sense to you, did it? But Rono, this anemone is completely dried up.
You just need to soak it in water overnight and it'll be as good as new. That's what the man said.
I'm not sure it works in the same way as dried wakame seaweed, Mr. Naruhodo.
Once I've saved some money, I'm going to buy some prawns to keep this little fellow company.
Oh, how exciting! Your office will be teeming with life.
Will it really? Britain is a funny country, though. I mean, the sea anemone craze.
Well, they say people in glass houses about comments like that here, Mr. Naruhodo. Don't forget that there was a very curious rabbit craze in our own country not so very long ago.
A mortifying chapter that people will try to erase from the history books 100 years from now, I'm sure.
You know, there was another craze as well before the aquarium one. Have you heard of Wardian cases?
Wardy what? No, I've definitely never heard of them.
They were little glazed cases for glowing plants indoors, I believe.
Oh, I see. Plant lovers to raise their favourite tropical plants.
That's right, like different types of ferns.
Ferns?
Do you mean those rather dull plants with a lot of fronds for leaves? They're not dull at all. Ferns are lovely plants. Plants. I think people wanted to recreate the exotic foliage of the tropics in their own homes.
So they grew ferns. I mean, ferns, sea anemones? Londoners certainly have a knack for the obscure.
Well, thinking about it, my grandfather loved the moss on his bonsai. He looked after it better than the trees.
It seems like the more obscure something is, the more it interests people.
Maybe. Anyway, the Wardian case craze didn't last for very long. Now, most of those little glass cases are just gathering dust, I think. Glass cases are just gathering dust, I think. But haven't I seen one in your room, Iris? Oh, very observant of you. Very observant of you, Soze. Yes, that's right. Mine's certainly not gathering dust. I grow tropical herbs in it. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, I really must ask you to stop all this frivolous buying of strange things.
Yes, alright, sorry. It's just that, well, think about Mr. Sholmes's room. He has all sorts of peculiar trinkets lying around. Oh, well, yes, that's true. And they seem to be growing in number. Recently, I've noted a blowpipe. Blowpipe! The blowpipe is from the Sign of the Four. A few beryl crystals set in a twisted piece of gold. A gold-rimmed pince-nez. I spotted a small gramophone record in there the other day, so I slipped it into the gramophone. It was just a whispering voice saying, Norbury, and nothing more. What could it possibly be about?
Those are all mementos of case that Hurley solved over the years.
Da, 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 da. I know, the only one I know is the blowpipe because it's signed for. Exactly! That's what I want to create in here. Just that sort of atmosphere.
Ah, a room full of meaningful trinkets, each with their own unique history, you mean?
Yes, that! I knew you'd understand, Miss Usato.
But, Mr. Naruhodo, none of the things you've bought for the room have any connection with any of our cases.
Oh, don't they?
Well, for example, take that splendid but rather weather-beaten top hat. That wasn't used in evidence in any of the cases we've worked on, was it? Oh, so you have two top hats if you count the collapsible one as well?
No, the collapsible one is a pot stand. As far as I'm concerned, anyway. It's a pot stand, as far as I'm concerned, anyway. But the other day, when we were in court, they were everywhere, weren't they? Top hats, I mean.
Well, here in Britain, of course, they're the mark of a true gentleman, so that's hardly surprising.
I wish I'd have played these little escapades in the middle, like as I went along.
If a man isn't wearing a top hat when he ventures out of doors, he'll be looked down upon.
Gosh, it has very strict rules, doesn't it? The English Gentleman's Code. I've been wondering how I'd look in a top hat recently. After all, my university uniform is black as well, so I think it would be very in keeping.
Oh, what a good idea! Go on then, Rono, try it on.
No way, the game's actually going to show us. No. They're just going to look along.
The lesson here, I suppose, is that the juxtaposition of the student and the gentleman is just so strange and wrong.
Well, I'd rather it didn't suit me anyway. I mean, these hats are ridiculous. I'd be willing to bet that every foreigner who sees one of these for the first time thinks exactly the same thing. Why is that man wearing a chimney on his head?
People in glass houses, remember, Rono?
What do you mean?
Well, what about Japanese? Chômage top knots. Those haircuts are the...
Oh, that's what's his face has. I was reading that in the art thing.
Those haircuts are the height of ridiculousness.
Ugh, true.
At least you can take a hat off. Once you have a chômage, it's on your head for good.
Good one.
I'd be willing to bet that every foreigner who sees a chômage for the first time thinks exactly the same thing. Why is that man wearing a cannon on his head? I suppose that's what it means to have different cultures, isn't it?
On the subject of hats, the one Mr. Sholmes always wears is very strange, don't you think?
I beg your pardon, Mr. Naruto. What a thing to say! That hat is the very essence of Mr. Sholmes.
Yes, without his deerstalker, the great detective would be unrecognizable. It's called the Deerstalker? It's a surprisingly swanky name.
It's the hat of a hunter, just like the flat cap. I made up my mind long ago to visit Regent Street and buy one for myself.
I'm not sure it's going to fit over your hair.
Well, I think it's perfect for a great detective who stalks his criminal quarry.
What do you think is strange about it anyway? Well, you've seen it. It has two brims, one at the front and one at the back. Why do you need two brims on the hat? Surely one at the front is enough, no? One moment, please. If you ask me, it's just Mr. Sholmes' madcap personality coming through. I bet it's so that he doesn't have to think about which way round to put it on or something like that. Mr. Sholmes does not have a madcap personality. He always has a clear head. These stalkers were made for hunters who had to hide in thickets when they were stalking their prey. The brim at the back was designed to stop the stalks of plants scratching the back of their necks. Oh, so that's the reason. Thank you, Iris, for educating us. Mr. Sholmes doesn't spend a lot of time in thickets, though, does he? Well, no. That's true. I'm telling you, it's just his impetuous personality. That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it. Firmly. Ah! Here you all are! Oh, good afternoon, Mr. Sholmes. I've not long since made some tea, Mr. Sholmes. Would you like a cup?
I see I've come at a good time, Miss Usato. Thank you. Now, I have something I should like you all to see. I've designed myself a brand new detective's hat. What the?
There's a brim at the front and at the back and at both sides. 4 brims in total.
Your observation is quite correct, my dear madam. I'm a busy man, you see. With this hat, whichever way I put it on, I shall always have it pointing the correct way.
Oh!
With my previous hat, I could, in an impetuous moment, wear it erroneously with the brims on either side.
That's impressively clumsy, I would say. I must regretfully say that I think your madcap theory was correct after all. But really, Mr. Sholmes, with brims on all 4 sides, wouldn't it just be better to wear a top hat instead? Oh yes, then however you put it on, you'd have a brim all around.
What? So true, so true! How could I have been so blinkered to this fact until now?
Well, fortunately, I happen to have 2 top hats here. If you just lift the pot off it, you're welcome to try. That's one over there. The pot? Is it in the scene? Is it this?
Indeed I shall, my good fellow. Much obliged.
Oh dear, Hurley, it looks terrible. More terrible than I could have possibly imagined. Oh, that's not good. Maybe it's because of your long face. Paired with the tall hat, it just doesn't work. Well, I think it's very nice, Mr. Sholmes, even if it will have the whole world in fits of laughter.
Ah! I should never have meddled with it. Give me my address to everyone, forevermore. And give me my regulation university hat forevermore.
Oh, it's like it looks like a cap, like a sailor-y looking cap thing. That one. There is still hope that you'll graduate one day, Mr. Naruhodo. Don't give up. Alright. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there and leave these 3 for another stream. They'll probably take just under an hour or around an hour. Let's... Stop streaming! Wait, I just realised that these escapades aren't in chronological order. Or are they? Oh yeah, they are.